The moment Madame Han asked for the maid by name, the atmosphere inside the mansion shifted completely. Elena walked slowly across the polished marble floor. Every step echoed louder than it should have. Every eye in the room followed her. Because no one understood why the most powerful woman in the house had chosen to call a maid first. Madame Han watched her approach with calm precision. Then she spoke quietly. "So, you're the one who listened." The word sent a wave of tension through the room. Because Madame Han wasn't asking. She already knew. Madame Han dismissed everyone else. One by one, the family members left the room. But Daniel remained near the doorway. Watching. Waiting. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Then Madame Han spoke again. "You entered the study." Elena hesitated. But there was no point denying it. "Yes, ma'am." Madame Han nodded slowly. "And you saw the documents?" Daniel's gaze shifted immediately. Because this was the first time the truth had been spoken out loud. Then Madame Han said something unexpected. "I was waiting for someone to find them." Madame Han leaned back slightly. Her expression remained calm. "The documents are real," she said. "But they are not what my sons believe them to be." Daniel stepped forward. "What do you mean?" Madame Han looked directly at him. "They think they are taking control of my assets." Her voice softened. "But in reality, I created those documents to test them." The room fell silent. Because the meaning behind her words was clear. This had never been about money. It had always been about betrayal. Madame Han turned her attention fully to Elena. "You had a choice," she said quietly. "You could have ignored what you saw. You could have stayed silent." Elena lowered her gaze. "I didn't know what to do." Madame Han studied her for a moment. Then she gave a faint nod. "That is why you are different." Daniel watched the exchange carefully. Because this was no longer just about a maid. Madame Han had just made a decision. And it involved Elena. Madame Han stood up slowly, supported by her cane. Then she said something that changed everything. "From this moment forward, you will report directly to me." Elena looked up in shock. Even Daniel seemed surprised. Because in a house filled with powerful people, Madame Han had just placed her trust in a maid. But the real meaning behind that decision was far more dangerous. Because by choosing Elena, Madame Han had just made her a target. And somewhere else inside that mansion, someone had already decided she needed to be removed. Madame Han stood up slowly, supported by her cane. Then she said something that changed everything. "From this moment forward, you will report directly to me." Elena looked up in shock. Even Daniel seemed surprised. Because in a house filled with powerful people, Madame Han had just placed her trust in a maid. But the real meaning behind that decision was far more dangerous. Because by choosing Elena, Madame Han had just made her a target. And somewhere else inside that mansion, someone had already decided she needed to be removed. Elena turned the corner quickly. Only to feel someone grab her wrist. Her breath caught in fear. Until she saw it was Daniel. "You shouldn't be walking alone," he said quietly. Elena pulled her hand back slightly. "I don't understand what's happening anymore." Daniel looked around before speaking. "My brother knows something is wrong." Her heart dropped. "What will he do?" Daniel hesitated. And that hesitation said more than words ever could. Because the danger was already closer than she thought. The next morning, everything looked normal. Staff moved around the kitchen. Conversations flowed as usual. But something had changed. Elena felt it immediately. A presence. Watching her. She glanced up briefly. And saw a man she had never seen before. Standing still. Doing nothing. Just watching. And when their eyes met, he didn't look away. Because this wasn't a coincidence. He was there for her. That evening, Elena found herself on the rooftop again. The only place that felt quiet. Safe. But even that feeling didn't last long. Daniel joined her. He's watching you now, he said. Elena's voice trembled slightly. Why are you helping me? Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at her in a way he never had before. Because you're not like the others, he said quietly. And because. He stopped. As if saying the next words would change everything. And maybe. It already had. That night. Elena made a decision. If she was already being watched. Then there was no turning back. She returned to the records room. Her hands moved faster this time. More desperate. More certain. She found the file again. Opened it. And looked deeper than before. Then suddenly. She froze. Because the name she had seen earlier. Was connected to something else. Something impossible. Something that explained everything. The document revealed one terrifying truth. Someone in the Han family. Had been replaced. The room felt smaller. Heavier. As Elena stared at the document in her hands. The name written beneath Madame Han's file. Was not just unfamiliar. It was identical. Same surname. Same birth date. Same identity. But a different record. A different history. Her breath caught in her throat. Because the document suggested something impossible. There weren't just secrets in the Han family. There were two versions of the same person. And only one of them was supposed to exist. Then suddenly. Elena heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Right outside the door. Her heart began to race. The file slipped slightly in her hand. The doorknob moved. Just a little. Then stopped. Whoever was outside. Wasn't in a hurry. They were listening. Waiting. And if that door opened. Everything would be over. Elena didn't wait. She moved. Quickly. Silently. Slipping through the back exit of the records room. Her footsteps were careful. But fast. Too fast for someone trying not to be noticed. She clutched the file tightly against her chest. Because whatever was inside it. Was worth risking everything. Behind her. A door opened. But by then. She was already gone. Or at least. That's what she thought. The underground parking area was quiet. Too quiet. Elena slowed down. Something felt wrong. Then. A voice echoed through the space. You shouldn't be here. She froze. Because standing just a few feet away. Was the same man from the kitchen. The one who had been watching her. His expression didn't change. Not even slightly. He stepped closer. You found something, he said. Not a question. A fact. And this time. There was no one around to stop what would happen next. Before Elena could react. A hand pulled her sharply backward. She gasped. And turned. It was Daniel. His grip was firm. Protective. Step away from her, he said coldly. The man paused. Then slowly stepped back. But his eyes never left Elena. Not even for a second. Daniel didn't let go of her. Not yet. And for the first time. His calm expression was gone. Replaced by something far more intense. Because this was no longer just protection. It was personal. Minutes later. They were already far from the mansion. The city lights blurred past them. Silence filled the car. Until Elena finally spoke. There's something you need to see. She opened the file again. Her hand still slightly shaking. Daniel glanced at it briefly. Then looked again. More carefully this time. Because what he saw. Made his expression change instantly. Where did you get this? He asked. Elena swallowed. It was hidden in your family records. Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Because the document didn't just reveal a secret. It revealed a truth he had never imagined. The file proved one thing clearly. The woman they all called Madame Han. Might not be the real one. At sunrise. The car returned to the mansion. But everything felt different. The same walls. The same doors. Yet nothing was the same anymore. Because this time, they weren't coming back as part of the house. They were coming back with the truth. And inside that house, someone was already waiting. The entire family was called together. No excuses. No delays. Even Daniel's brother stood present. His expression unreadable. Madame Han sat at the center of the room. Calm. Composed. As if she had been waiting for this exact moment. Elena stood quietly beside Daniel. Holding the file. Holding the truth. And then Madame Han spoke. Let's end this. Elena stepped forward slowly. Her hands steady this time. She placed the file on the table. Opened it. And let the truth speak for itself. Silence filled the room. One by one. Eyes moved across the document. Confusion. Shock. Denial. Daniel's brother stepped closer. Then stopped. Because the truth was undeniable. There were two identities. Two records. Two versions of the same life. Which meant only one thing. Someone had been lying. For years. Madame Han stood slowly. The room fell completely silent. Then she spoke. There was never another woman. Everyone froze. Because that wasn't what they expected. She looked directly at her sons. The second identity was created by me. Daniel's breath caught. His brother's expression hardened. I needed to know, she continued. Which of you would betray me for power? Her voice didn't shake. Not even once. So I created a lie. A second life. A secret worth stealing. She paused. And you both failed. But the next part was the one no one was prepared for. Madame Han turned her gaze toward her sons. You fought over something that was never real. Her words cut deeper than anger ever could. Then she turned toward Elena. And yet, the only honest person in this house was never part of this family. The room shifted again. Because everyone understood what that meant. Madame Han raised her cane slightly. From today, things will change. Daniel's brother stepped forward angrily. You're choosing her over us? Madame Han didn't hesitate. Yes. And in that moment, everything collapsed. That evening, the mansion was quieter than it had ever been. Not peaceful. Just changed. Elena stood on the terrace once again. But this time, she wasn't afraid. Daniel walked toward her slowly. Everything between them had shifted. No more distance. No more uncertainty. You could leave now, he said quietly. Elena looked at the horizon. Then back at him. And go where? She asked softly. Daniel didn't answer. Because for the first time, he didn't want her to leave. A gentle silence settled between them. Not awkward. Not tense. Just real. Final closing line, emotional hook. Because sometimes, the most unexpected place a person finds truth is also where they find where they truly belong.